welcome to Flamecast. I am Todd Platz.
And I am Wes Swingley.
Yeah, we have the Return of Wes. Because, yeah, Wes has graciously agreed to join us today because no one else would. Well, it's not the only reason, but I was going to try to get, maybe four of us all together. Matt is out of town. I think he was driving back home from Chicago or something like that. Travis didn't know if he was going to go to the fair or be here. And it looks like he went to the fair.
We have one of those going on.
Yeah, we've got the Minnesota State Fair going on right now.
Ours is way better. Ours is called Corn Fest. I mean, what?
Oh boy.
What's not to love?
Corn. That's corny.
Yeah.
No, I went to the State Fair Friday evening. Well, it started out to be Friday afternoon, but by the time I got a parking spot, it was practically evening. So, I think next time we'll do the park and ride option because there hasn't been one time I've gone to the State Fair and have actually had to deal with there's no place to park. And yeah, this time it was like, okay, we can't get in here, we can't get in there. What are we going to do? And I ended up driving by, it was a park and ride lot. Drove by and their sign said lot full. But I saw a car pull into there. I'm like, hey, wait a second. So I rolled down the window and, the people kind of tending the parking lot are standing there. And I'm like, is there actually room back there yet? He's like, oh yeah, there's 2 spots open. I'm like, I'm there. Nice. Yeah, so. And Friday was after 5 o'clock. Everything was purple and Prince related and stuff.
Oh.
They had that going on at the fair that day, so.
Yeah, that reminds me all the news about the stupid whatever it is, fentanyl.
Oh.
Have you read the news? This is maybe not on topic of your podcast, but the news about cause of Prince's death.
Oh, we can go there.
Yeah.
We've talked about Prince in a previous
It's frustrating.
podcast.
It's, it's kind of like Anton Yelchin, right? It's death at the hands of a stupid company. This is seeming like death at the hands of crappy drug counterfeiters.
Yeah. And someone asked me on Facebook, well, just last night, I didn't see it until this morning, but they're like, what do you think happened? And I'm just like, I really have no idea anymore. Because it's like,
right? So.
Maybe it was. I mean, there's still the issue that, okay, he didn't have prescriptions for the stuff that it was supposedly supposed to be. So it sounds like he was still getting stuff illegally. Did he know that it wasn't, what it was supposed to be, or did he?
I doubt it. I think a lot of those things are just companies trying to pass things off cheaply, and maybe they can get away with it, but if somebody's taken a lot of those, then it's going to catch up with them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I honestly, maybe this is just my, narrow viewpoint, but I bet a lot of the celebrities don't have their own prescriptions for the drugs that they're taking.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. That's something to think about.
It's a busy lifestyle. I can actually think of some valid justification for it. If you're gone 360 days a year, you don't exactly hop into the pharmacist and grab something.
Although there was reports that he had gone to the Walgreens pharmacy the day before or a couple of days before, something like that. And so, if you're at that status, social status, it's like, okay, yeah, you probably do go by a different name and
Right.
get your prescriptions that way. So, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well,
and
that's
there's that kind of thing that happens at Mayo as well,
yeah.
Mayo Clinic. Um, some people, yeah, they go by aliases. Other people, they don't care.
Right.
Because there's been a few histories that I've come across in the uh, 14 years that I've worked there where it's like, should I be looking at this? This is, so and so. And they're like, you need to do the job. So, I mean, if
Yeah.
they don't care about, their name being, out there as far as, the work that needs to be done, for the medical record, then that's that. But it just kind of struck me like, holy crap. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, it was, um, everything was lit up purple at the fair and stuff, and you could go to different booths, and you know they might be playing Prince music, or they're wearing purple shirts, or you go to, like, I went to this booth to get a malt, and it had purple sprinkles on it,
Nice.
stuff like that. So
I heard a NPR article, I think probably talking about this drug thing, and their byline was like Prince, best known for Little Red Corvette and Let's Go Crazy. And I was thinking to myself, like, really? Are those the two songs
I know.
that I would pick? Uh,
Yeah, the station that I usually listen to when I actually am listening to radio, it's the current 89.3 from the cities, and it's Minnesota Public Radio, but it's their music station. And they had a booth at the fair, and they had a thing sitting out there where they had these little fuzz balls, and I had this big bucket of them, and then they had, what's the biggest Prince song, and they had it relegated to like When Doves Cry, Kiss, and Let's Go Crazy, and you'd have to stick the fuzzball into the proper basket to make your vote.
mhm.
And yeah, it was. I mean, it was early in the evening. I don't know when they started it, but yeah, Let's Go Crazy was the one with the highest amount of fuzzballs in it. So
So they're judging based on where people put the fuzzballs.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I like Let's Go Crazy, but Raspberry Beret and When Doves Cry is one of my favorite songs ever.
Yeah, When Doves Cry was the one that got me hooked
Yeah,
back in '84. So I'm like, I gotta put my fuzzball over there.
good, good. I approve of that choice.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, if I had a choice, if there was a bucket for like the song Seven or Mountains, then it'd be like a toss up. I'm like, I don't know which one to do. But yeah, it was a fun night at the fair.
Yeah, it's a good night to go.
Well, kind of switching gears here. I mean, it's been a while since we ended up doing a podcast, and in between, we've been bombarded with a crapload of trailers from Comic Con.
Yeah, it's hard to even keep up on the Comic Con trailers.
Oh, oh my gosh, I was gonna do a whole podcast of just you know going through each of the trailers and kind of watching them together, and then I'm like,
Mhm.
there's too many.
I was wondering if there's a list. Let's see if I can find a
Yeah,
list.
I started the list, and it's like, okay, I'm just gonna do some highlights.
For
I
sure.
mean, some of it is, I mean, Marvel released a bunch for their Netflix shows. So you had new ones for Luke Cage, Iron Fist,
Mhm.
Defenders, and such. And it sounds like they're doing, oh, what was it? Another season yet of Daredevil. However, Daredevil's going to be in the Defenders, so I'm not sure how that's going to work, or if Daredevil's going to come in after the Defenders again, or who knows.
I don't. I kind of worry about that. I love Daredevil, but I almost feel like it was lightning in a bottle. I don't know that a second movie is gonna. I don't know. I like it
Well,
as a one-off. I feel like a second movie may kill it. We'll see.
well, we're kind of referring to
Not wait. Sorry.
the TV series.
No. Never mind. Brain fart.
Okay.
Leave it alone. I'll move on.
Okay.
Yes. Daredevil. Continue. Go on.
I was gonna say the second season of Daredevil is awesome too, but
it's a D word. My brain just got Deadpool stuck in it, and
yeah.
Because they are making a second Deadpool, and yeah.
You know, you should not feel alone. Kevin Smith made the same mistake when he was talking about it on one of his podcasts.
Well, good. Kevin Smith's.
Yeah. He meant to say Daredevil, and he said Deadpool, and then he's like, "Oh, I said the wrong one."
He should be much more embarrassed.
But no, there's been no Deadpool news that I know of.
Yeah.
Other than they're probably doing another one with Cable and such, but I don't think anything's been solidified there. Yeah. But they did have an unexpected trailer for Justice League. I'm not sure if you saw the Justice League one, but Aquaman seems pretty badass.
Yeah, I did watch the Justice League one.
Yeah. I mean, Aquaman seemed pretty decent in there. It makes me feel better about the Aquaman movie.
Yeah. Well, they're going a different way, right? Making him more of a Neptune type character, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the comics in the last, I'll say maybe 20 years or so, they've kind of turned Aquaman into that type of character, rather than the guy you saw from the Super Friends.
Yeah. We don't need a guy who gurgles to fish.
It's funny too, because in the Justice League trailer, one of the last things is Bruce Wayne saying to Aquaman, "So I hear you talk to fish."
Oh yeah, and it's Khal Drogo, right?
Yes.
That'll be interesting.
And supposedly, I just saw this yesterday. He's got his own beer. So it's like aqua beer or something like that.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so whoever had posted it, maybe it might have been the Nerdist. They go and give the story, and I had to write back on there. Because like the first thing that came into my mind was, I don't know if you remember this or not, but when someone took the old Budweiser True commercial and dubbed it over footage from Super Friends.
What's up with you? Nothing. Watching the game, having a bud. True.
And Aquaman's sitting there with a test tube of stuff, and it's like, yeah, I can totally see this. Aquaman having his own beer, so I posted that on there. Anyways, but...
So, yeah, I don't actually think I watched the Justice League trailer. I've been watching it in silent while you've been talking, and we can veer off on this conversation later, but in the time since I last talked to you, I've watched Batman vs. Superman, because I did not watch it in the theater. And I watched Suicide Squad. So I've been in the, comic universe a bit, and not in a good way. So I don't know, and I guess I didn't know that Justice League is going to be Zack Snyder again.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not good.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, I'll probably still go see it, but...
I also, in the meantime, was in California with and my family, and my sister had gotten remarried, and her new husband, one of his favorite movies ever is Sucker Punch, and he made us watch it. And that is also a Zack Snyder movie, and that is not good also.
I have never seen that, so...
Oh, man, it's pretty bad. So, yeah, I'm looking at his IMDb page now. He's got a bit of a history with comic book properties.
That's probably why they keep him on the payroll.
I don't know that it's a good history though. I mean, Watchmen,
Yeah.
I enjoyed Watchmen.
Oh yeah.
I don't know that it's necessarily the most well done thing ever. 300, also based on a comic book, which
Yeah.
I can't stand, but I know a lot of
I
people
still
like it.
haven't seen that yet.
I did not like it, but I'm probably in the minority. And Man of Steel, which is the forgettable Superman movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. He needs to not do any more comic book movies. I'll be okay with that.
Yeah. Well,
So in the same universe, the big trailer, probably the one that everybody has liked the most, is Wonder Woman.
yeah, I was just gonna say Wonder Woman trailer. I just watched that again last night, and I'm like, this looks like it's gonna be so good.
I'm a little worried about some of the cinematography and the fight scenes. They're doing that, the stop, freeze, turn
Yeah.
fight scene stuff.
Well, we can blame the Matrix for that.
I know, but like, we shouldn't still be blaming the Matrix because it's been so long. The Matrix came out when I met you, when I lived in
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
That was a lot of years ago.
Yeah. That was like the in thing to do back then. Matrix came out with it, and everyone's like, "Oh, awesome!"
And we're still doing it.
Yeah, people are still doing it.
It's interesting that I'm not sure what to make of them making it a period piece. I guess it's kind of trying to mimic the Captain America type vibe.
Well, I mean, you go back and look at the history of Wonder Woman, and I mean, she was fighting alongside soldiers and stuff, and I want to say it was World War II, though, not World War One.
Yeah, this is World War One, correct?
Right. But I'd have to do a little more research on that. But it's like, yeah, she is, that old. But and basically, I mean, with being of the lineage of the gods, Greek gods and such. Yeah, I suppose she doesn't age like everyone else, so
Yeah,
it's plausible that way. So
I don't really. I guess I know. I want to say I know more about the major DC characters than the major Marvel characters, but
yeah,
Wonder Woman was never one that I knew all that much about.
yeah, that'd be a hour of doing research on like Wikipedia and stuff.
Right. Before we get too sidetracked, I don't even know if it's actually a Comic-Con trailer, but a trailer that I wanted to talk about, and I want to know if you've seen it. Did you see the trailer for The Great Wall?
The Great Wall? No, I haven't.
I almost want you to pause the podcast, go watch the Great Wall trailer, and come back. It is a Chinese-made movie made by a Chinese director, and it stars Matt Damon. And it's all about the Great Wall as a means not to keep out the Mongols, but to keep out monsters.
Oh, interesting.
It looks absurd, and I don't really know what to make of it. One of the things a lot of people have been complaining about, it looks like a standard white savior movie, right? You have the Chinese people, and you have your white savior, Matt Damon, who is there for God knows what reason.
Yeah.
But it's made by a Chinese movie crew. It's got a couple major Chinese actors. Andy Lau, I love, is in it. It's also got Willem Dafoe in it, because why not?
Huh. Well, let's see.
But
yeah, Legendary Pictures, Universal.
You have to watch it. All the people listening have to watch the trailer. It's not as ridiculous as the Jackie Chan, oh man, who is that? John Cusack Chinese movie that came out.
I don't think I watched that either.
That trailer made me want to throw up a little bit. I don't know if the movie already came out, but yeah, so China trying to get in some, Hollywood stars to boost their movie sales overseas, it looks like.
Well, yeah, it kind of makes you wonder how well will this one do in China, since
Yeah.
other movies have issues playing in China.
Well, I mean, there have been, I don't know how many foreign films you watch, but there was a heyday 15 years ago where there were a lot of really big movies coming out of China that were hitting worldwide, like Hero and uh, man, I always remember the Chinese name, but I always forget the English name. House of Flying Daggers and things like that, and they kind of went away. And some of the Stephen Chow, I don't know if you know Shaolin Soccer,
No.
things like that that came out of Hong Kong, but there was this big hit of Chinese movies coming out in the early 2000s, and they just kind of dried up and disappeared. So I don't know if that's going to come back, if the Chinese film industry is trying to reach out again and make some big hits overseas. But a lot of those were movies that were just very popular in China and kind of bled out overseas because they were popular enough that they got outside attention. They weren't necessarily marketed at overseas audiences,
Okay.
like this one seems to be.
Hmm. Yeah.
Sorry, I had to sidetrack with that one because it blew me away at how odd it looked.
No, that's good. But yeah, I'm looking at the cast listing, and yeah, Matt Damon, Willem Dafoe, Pedro Pascal, and then, well, let's see. I
All
think
Chinese
all the
actors.
other names are pretty much, yeah, Chinese names.
Yeah, Andy Lau is one of my favorite Chinese actors. He's in a lot of like uh, Man's movies. The Departed that came out in the U.S. was from a Chinese movie, and I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, I think Andy Lau's in that movie, and it's a better movie than the American Departed by far.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll have to check that out.
It's called
I kind of
Infernal
watched.
Affairs. If anybody out there wants to watch it, Infernal Affairs, the Chinese version of The Departed that came out in 2002.
All right. And we'll have try to get links up for these when the podcast is released here.
Haha, yeah, I'll make you have lots of things to link.
Listen back. What was that movie again? Yeah, speaking of Matt Damon, well, he had a movie just come out recently, Jason Bourne. And who was I talking to? I think it was my brother-in-law, Wade. It's either Wade or Chad, one of the two. They're saying, yeah, Damon's only got like a limited number of lines in the whole movie.
Oh, really?
Because a lot of it's just action. Yeah, I mean, hey, you're doing more action than talking. So, but I felt before I watched this movie, I had to finally sit down and watch all the other Bourne movies.
Had you not seen them, or you
I
just
had
rewatched
not seen them.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, as it was getting closer to release date, I walked into a store, maybe shortly after our last podcast or so, and they had all the previously released Bourne movies like in one collection.
Did you even watch the Jeremy Renner? Is that who?
Yeah, yeah. And it was only like 20 something bucks, and I'm like, okay, I got to do it. So I went and picked it up, and yep, I watched them all, and I'm like, yeah, these are pretty good. I mean, they're not amazing, but they're good.
I'd be curious to watch them again because I think I've seen all of them except the Jeremy Renner one. I haven't seen that. I've seen all of the three major movies one time, and so I saw them, I think, in the theater right when they came out, and I remember really liking the first one,
Okay.
not liking the second one very much, and really not liking the third one. And so
Really?
I didn't really have any interest in going back. But a lot of that, I think, they really, more than many movies, play like contiguous, right? You
Yeah.
can watch them back to back to back, and the timeline is really back to back to back.
Right.
So I think maybe for me, they suffered from having those couple of years in between.
And then they, scenes that you see in one movie, like right at the end, get kind of more fleshed out in like the next movie.
Hmm.
So like at the end of the first one, you see Bourne talking to what's her name on the phone, and saying that she needs more sleep or something like that. And then she turns around and it's like, oh, where is he? Well, you see that exact scene
Right.
in the next movie, like in the middle of it. And it's like, oh, okay, this is what was going on at this particular point. So yeah, it's a total like back to back to back thing. Um, the Jeremy Renner one, actually I thought that worked pretty well. Um, there is a special appearance by a certain X-wing pilot in that movie.
X-wing pilot.
Yeah, our
Chubby guy.
Poe Dameron.
Oh, Poe Dameron.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw something else.
Yeah,
with
what's
him.
his name? He plays another one of the
Vega. Something Vega.
yeah, I'm
Oscar Vega.
drunk. Oscar Isaacs?
Isaac Vega?
I don't think Vega's in there.
It's.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna figure this out. Yeah. I saw something with him recently in it that was not good.
Well, he was okay in this one, but he seems so bulked up. It's like
Oscar Isaac, yeah. So
Oscar
I had
Isaac,
half
yeah.
of it.
There's no Vegas.
No, I had one half.
You
had the
insisted
other
on a
half,
Vega.
and there's a Vega somewhere there.
Uh, but yeah, he's so bulked up. I'm like, he must have lost weight to be able to fit in the X-wing in the next movie, because he just doesn't look. He looks normal in, The Force Awakens.
I
But
know what.
Granted, he was in the Bourne movie.
Yeah.
He was wearing like a big sweater and living out in Alaskan or Canadian wilderness or something like that. So,
I think he's one of these actors that he got famous with Ex Machina, which I maybe mentioned last time, and then of course Star Wars. But he's one of those people you see in lots of old movies, and you're like, oh, it's that guy. And people who are listening who are smart enough know that I already mentioned a movie that I just saw him in, and that is Sucker Punch. And he is
yeah.
really awful in Sucker Punch.
Uh,
Like loathsome, awful, not bad acting, but anyway.
yeah. So, so his hits and misses, he's probably got more misses than hits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what did you think of the new Bourne movie?
I liked it. Yeah, I kind of feel about that one that I felt about the others. It's like, it's not a great movie,
Good enough.
but it's a good movie.
Yeah.
So, if I had a chance to watch it again, yeah, I'd do it again. Wouldn't be something like, nah, never going there again.
In a similar vein, we had, I think, maybe it was early this year, I can't remember, the new Mission Impossible movie was coming out, and we heard really good things about it. And I had seen maybe one or two of the other movies, and I remember really disliking them when I was younger. And so we went back and watched, how many was it? 4 or 3? 4, maybe, Mission Impossible movies before this last one. And they're it's the same idea. Like, a couple of them are pretty good, but most of them are like, yeah, it was good, but not changing my life. But the new one was actually quite good.
Yeah, I still haven't watched any of them.
They're in the very same category. I think the Bourne movies and the Mission Impossible movies, they feel exactly the same.
Yeah, I guess I can see that. Yeah, especially like my attitude towards, well, it'd be like anyone's attitudes. Some people just hate Matt Damon. But,
I don't think that's possible.
I mean, he's done a lot of good stuff out there. I'm sorry. I'm sure I'm a little impartial because, he's been in Kevin Smith movies. So.
That's true. No, he's a pretty likable guy. Tom Cruise, on the other hand.
Yeah, Tom Cruise, especially once he went weird on us with the Scientology
He
stuff.
brought it
I'm
back.
just like,
I had a long time period where I would not watch a movie with Tom Cruise in it, and that's probably why I hated those Mission Impossible movies. But
hmm,
Edge of Tomorrow, or whatever it's supposed to be called, is a fantastic movie.
hmm.
Have you not seen it?
I have not seen it,
Oh
no.
my god. Okay, watch Edge of Tomorrow. And it's based on a comic book. It's based on a Japanese comic book called All You Need Is Kill, which is a
Huh.
ridiculous name. But the comic is actually, it's different, but it's very, very good, very fantastic, super cool time travel aspects, which I like. I like time travel movies, but often
Okay.
they have problems.
I remember seeing the trailer for it and thinking, yeah, that could be all right, but I just never made the
It's
effort.
it's one of those things, kind of like Pitch Black, and I just had another one in my head, like Army of Darkness, and it's one of these movies that came out and did just terribly in the theater, but people are still just buying crap
Hmm.
tons of DVDs today. It's super popular afterward.
Good old Army of Darkness.
Yeah, I saw that in the theater.
Yeah, I was totally oblivious to that when it came out in the theater, and I didn't know anything about those movies.
I hadn't seen one or two when I saw it in
Yeah,
the theater.
until our friend Chad, he brought over Army of Darkness on videotape one day when him and a bunch of his friends came over, watched the movie, and because I was thinking, I don't know, and then we watched. I'm like, this is freaking hilarious.
It's so good. And
It's like once the one guy fell into the well, and then you had that moment of silence, and then the spewing of the blood from the fountain. I'm like, okay, I'm in.
yeah, and have you seen the first two movies?
I have seen them. It was after that, but
Yeah, I saw them
yeah.
after, and I'm not a horror movie guy at all, and so the first Evil Dead, like I could take it or leave it, but Evil Dead 2, where it's kind of a comedy,
Yeah, yeah,
that's very good.
yeah. Speaking Evil Dead, the next season of Ash versus Evil Dead is
I
coming
don't
up here
have,
pretty
what is it,
soon.
Stars or Showtime or something? I don't have the channel.
Yeah, well, neither do I, but
Yes, we watched a couple episodes of it because we had, I think, Stars free for a couple weeks or something like that.
okay.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, it's in the vein of Army of Darkness. It's comedy with like horror sprinkled in here and there, but it's so funny that it's like
I need
you
to
forget
write
it's horror.
I need to write it down because I keep forgetting to follow up and watch that show because I do want to watch it and I just haven't kept up with it.
Yeah, I know that. Well, I'm not sure if they're still doing it or not, but it used to be you go to the Stars website and you could watch the first episode for free there.
Yeah. Well, I think I can actually get a Star subscription through Amazon Prime. I know I can do Showtime, but
Mm.
that could be a way that you could potentially do it on demand.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, on demand. It's like the only way to watch stuff now.
yeah, one potential. I'm gonna give you the perfect opportunity for a segue, which since I've pointed it out, that means it's a crappy segue. In the last month, I've introduced two different groups of people to the best comedy version, comedy sci-fi of all time, which is Galaxy Quest.
Ah.
I introduced I have two younger cousins, one who's 18 and one who's 15, and the 15-year-old is very dubious of adult life and the world in general.
Yeah.
But we got talking with her about shows that she liked, and she liked a lot of kind of the new, sci-fi type shows that are on TV right now. And so we convinced her to watch that, and yeah, they loved it.
Oh
And then
yeah.
another friend of mine here, also fairly young, big Star Trek fan, had not seen Galaxy Quest. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I had to twist her arm to watch it, and then she loved it.
Yeah, I remember when it was, in the theaters, and because I worked evening shifts at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd always watch WCCO news at noon, and for new movies coming out, they'd usually have a segment in there where they would kind of, interview some of the people and stuff like that. And I remember them doing interviews for Galaxy Quest, and I'm like, oh, this looks pretty funny and stuff, but yeah, just never got to it. And then it might have been like a year later, and I was talking with Travis, and he's like, "Oh, you got to see this movie."
You didn't
I'm
see
like,
it in the theater?
"No, I
Oh
didn't."
my god.
And it was. I can say though, that was the first DVD I had ever bought. It was Galaxy Quest. So that in itself is saying something.
It's so good. Every time I watch it, it's as funny, if not funnier.
Yeah. I love that on the DVD. I'm sure they probably do it on the Blu-ray too, but you can watch the whole thing in Thermion.
Oh, really? I've never
Yes.
seen that. God.
I don't know how long I could take that, but
No,
I'm
it's
like,
hard to listen to.
just the thought of them doing something like that, I'm like, that's hilarious.
Well, almost every time I watch it too, I notice a background actor, usually a Thermian, that's somebody I recognize, like Dwight from The Office is one
Yes,
of the Thermians.
I didn't realize that until years later. It's like, oh my God, it's Dwight.
Yeah, Ted from Scrubs. I don't know if you know Scrubs, but
Yeah, I hadn't watched Scrubs at all, so. But
Ted is this old, I don't know, what is he, an accountant in Scrubs, but he's also one of the Thermians too. It's great.
he's not Teb in Galaxy Quest, is he?
That would be great
The
if
one-
he was.
The one Thermian who's kind of the captain there.
No.
Okay.
Speaking of that,
Or no,
Star-
Teb isn't the captain. No, that's oh, shoot. He was like almost like a second in command, but he was the one that ran the digitizer
Oh, okay.
because he announced when the thing exploded.
And it exploded.
And it exploded. But yeah, he's in Deadpool
He
as
is.
the agent that comes to Deadpool to get him to join the little secret testing thing there. But anyways,
You reminded me, and I have to segue even more. My segue was to get us to Star Trek, but even more so, my wife and I were just watching, we're still going through Deep Space Nine, and we just watched the episode where Morn died.
oh yeah,
And you're going to maybe laugh at me because you probably have realized this a long time ago, but I had this epiphany that like changed, it rewrote my entire life history because I was watching that episode and he died, and Dax came in and yelled like "Morn," and then they were talking about his bar stool that he always sat at, and I realized
Yep.
it's an anagram of Norm, and I
Yep.
don't know how I never put that together.
yeah. I don't think I had really realized it either when I was first watching the show
Uh-huh.
until I saw someone comment on it. And it's like,
For-
oh yeah, it makes perfect sense.
For those not following that logic, Norm was one of the main characters of Cheers,
Yeah.
who was always at the bar. Every time you would come in, people would yell Norm, and he always sat in the same stool, and
Yep.
it's so obvious now
Yep.
that I couldn't believe that I had gone so many years without putting that together.
Yeah. Yep. That was a good show. Have you gotten to In the Pale Moonlight yet?
No, I hope that's not a. I'm sure. What is that reference from? I know it's obviously in Batman, but I'm sure the Joker is taking it from something that I don't know. Never Dance with the Devil in the Pale Moonlight.
Yeah, that's really the only reference I've seen it from. So, if Tim Burton took it from something else, I'm not sure, but I think it was in reference to the Batman movie.
Okay, cool. What
But
season is
that one
that?
has got to be like one of the best episodes ever.
We must be close. That is season 6, episode 9. I think the Morn one that we just watched is season 6, episode like 10 or something. Cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Speaking of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yes, I did go and see Star Trek Beyond, and of course you did too.
Of course.
And I have to say, just like a lot of people, I was pleasantly surprised. I was expecting more of the last two movies. With
Did you not like the first one?
actually, the first one I had no problem with.
I really
Yeah, there was a
do
lot of
like the
action in
first one.
there and stuff, and some characters seemed a little out of character, Spock. But I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with this. It's going in a good direction. And then, yeah, Into Darkness. I'm just like,
I do not like Into Darkness.
well, I rewatched it again for the first time since seeing it in the theater,
Hmm.
and actually, my my judgment on it has kind of gotten better
It's
since
cool.
then. I'm like, this isn't as bad as I thought.
I haven't watched it again either, and I should watch it. But my issue was that it felt too much like The Matrix meets the new Sherlock Holmes movies. The fight choreography was overblown.
Hmm.
The scene where they're fighting on the planet, or where Khan is like kicking butt on the planet,
Yeah.
I just that's burned into my memory as what I hated the most about that movie.
Yeah. That the scene doesn't last too long, so you can
I
kind of
know it
get
affected
past
me
it.
apparently.
But
And I
my
love
main beef with the movie is, of course, they couldn't do it because they got to be politically correct. You can't have a bad guy be Middle Eastern.
Well, that's the thing. Like I love
I mean,
Benedict Cumberbatch, but he is not Khan. He just doesn't fit the role of
exactly,
Khan.
exactly. Um,
And he doesn't have to be Middle Eastern. I mean, any any ethnicity in the Central Asian region can work better than
yeah, yeah,
a British guy.
exactly. I just
And
cannot get past that.
it's Ricardo Montalban pulled it off, and nobody complained too much.
Yeah, he was the ultimate. Yeah, just
Yeah,
the.
Khan has to be like sexy and smooth, and yeah, I didn't get that at all.
I mean, when you look at, like AFI puts together the list of, 100 best bad guys in movies,
Mm.
and you're gonna get two people every time right up near at the top, Darth Vader and Khan.
Yeah.
Although it's the old Khan, not the new one. You put the new one in that list, I don't think he makes the list.
Yeah, I want to look this up now. Yeah, I'll rewatch it. I have it, but I just haven't watched it again since it.
Yeah, there's some good moments in the new one. I liked how they, put McCoy and Spock down on the planet together, and the one thing I wasn't too sure on there was, Spock kind of losing it a little bit and starting to laugh, and
Yeah, I kind of like
I mean,
that.
I can see it, and even, McCoy makes a joke about it.
Well,
You know,
and
I, I think he's getting, delirious or whatever.
this is a more human Spock. I think that's probably what you were complaining about or alluding to in the first movie.
Yeah,
Is it was already more of a human Spock than the original Spock. It's like, you know, uh, Star Trek 5 or Star Trek 6 era Spock that he's portraying.
yeah. Well, even a little more than that.
Yeah, yeah, I think he's just evolving it further. And it kind of makes sense if we imagine this in this alternative universe that he is dating. Maybe he was with somebody before Uhura, maybe not, but being with somebody is gonna lend humanity to him.
Yeah. I mean, in the original series, he was engaged at, childhood to
Yeah, but
marry.
in the Klingon or in the Vulcan way, right? Of
Yeah, right.
no
Because,
further.
you don't really know about her until the one episode. But so yeah, as far as old universe goes, yeah, he's a little more Vulcan, but I guess I'm okay with it.
So, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I did like that they added in the credits, their little memorials to both Leonard and Anton.
Right. I was going to say the one thing everybody probably wants to hear, and the one thing everybody talks about when they come out of this movie was the use of sabotage.
Ah.
What do you think? Does that grunt say it all?
I don't know. I was okay with it, I guess, but
when it was coming, I could see it coming. They start talking about the sound waves, and you're like, oh no, 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 no. Really, like they couldn't have come up with some, frequencies of just random noise. Has to be sabotage.
Yeah, although it is a little fitting, given the title of the song.
That's the more annoying part. It's too on the nose.
Yeah.
And you are not talking to like a bigger Beastie Boys fan. Could not be talking to a bigger Beastie Boys fan. I love Beastie Boys. And I don't know if that maybe makes it worse for me to have that.
Yeah, I can see that. For me, the casual fan, I'm just like, yeah, sure. But if you're big into their music, then it's like, yeah, that's kind of. That'd be like them using "Let's Go Crazy"
right
to do it for me, and then I'd be like, okay, come on, that's a little cheesy.
Well, the one funny thing, I do respect one thing that they did that the old Star Trek, all of them, like pick any Star Trek that you've seen before this, is often accused of, and I totally agree, is it over romanticizes like early 20th century culture. There's all of this reference to Sherlock Holmes with Data. There's all of this reference to classical music and gangster times, and who was it that always did the private detective stuff?
Oh, well, Picard would do that as Dixon Hill.
Yeah, Picard, that's right. And so you have all of this romanticization of that 1920s culture, and there's really very little. I feel like Tom Paris maybe had some late 20th century stuff in there.
Yeah, I think he did. His bar with the pool table and such.
Yeah. The joke was that whenever they go back in time on Star Trek, it's always to the 1980s or 1990s or whatever era it's filmed in.
And well, that makes it less expensive.
Yeah, of course. Well, and if anybody out there is a reader, and you should read this too, Todd, if you've not read Red Shirts, you should read Red Shirts.
I have not.
Red Shirts is a sort of comedy spoof novel about these characters in the Star Trek universe, or whatever they call it in the book, but this Star Trek-like universe where these characters that are the Red Shirts are fully aware of them being an expendable commodity. And I won't go any further than that, but super good book, very short, very easy read. But if you're a Star Trek fan, you have to read Red Shirts because it's perfect. And I'm almost positive they're making a movie out of it. It totally lends itself to being a movie. So let's see. Red Shirts movie. Oh, TV series. What? No.
TV? What?
This is something from 2013, so it can't be.
Okay.
Maybe it is. I don't know. Anyway, read the book. It's by
All
John
right.
Scalzi, who's a great author. He's got a few really good books out there I could recommend as well.
Kind of makes me wonder if it's a little bit like, like Kevin Rubio was trying to do with Troops in that fan film. A day in the life of a stormtrooper.
We'll leave it at that. Again,
Okay.
I don't want to say too much. It can very, very easily be spoiled. So if
Okay.
you're interested in the book, don't read too much stuff online. It might be spoiled for you. Go read the book. It's
All
good.
right. Well, from Comic-Con, we also got to look at Star Trek Discovery.
Oh, yes.
Not too much of a look, but we got to look at the ship, which looks like it's... a lot of people have been complaining about the look of the ship.
I'm curious what your take is. You know the ships like way better than anybody I know, and I know very little about the ships. When I saw it, I saw like an amalgam of a uh, what's the big Klingon ship? Not the Bird
Yeah,
of
like
Prey, but the bigger one.
D7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a Federation ship.
Yeah. Um, it is kind of like that. However, it was weird because not too long before that, someone had posted, or gosh, what was it? I think it was a post with like failed Star Trek um, ideas that the studios were trying to make happen, like early on and later on and such. And one of them was it like another series they were gonna have? And this was before the motion picture, but after the original series. And they had concept art, and the ship from the concept art is basically what you're seeing
Right.
in Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, I've heard people say that. This is a Macquarie.
Right, right. And me, I guess, I mean, being the time period that it's taking place in, I guess I don't really have an issue with it.
Well, here's the issue.
Yeah,
So
it's big and bulky, but I mean, things were back then.
the problem I have is this is meant to be pre-Enterprise, or maybe concurrent, but an earlier
Well,
design.
not pre-Enterprise. This is
I mean pre-USS
pre-original
Enterprise.
series. Yep.
Yeah, I mean pre-USS Enterprise because the ship call number is a lower number. So this is a production model that was built before the Enterprise. And the issue with it having this Klingon look, Klingon styling is, have they met the Klingons at this point in the universe, in the Discovery universe? Why would it have this amalgam look?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because, um, when more details were released, rather than just seeing the ship, and okay, we've got a timeline. It's happening about 10 years prior to the original series. I guess someone had asked about, will it deal with the Romulan War? And their reply was, something like close but no cigar. It's like, well, what other war is there? Big war, but the Klingon War. So, and it just so happens to be that, we have something else out there that takes place during the Klingon War in that same era, and it's called Axanar. I wonder why they were sued to stop production. So, yeah.
You think
I'm like, all this kind of sounds like, yeah, they maybe came up with the idea at the same time, or maybe, Paramount got the idea from Axanar, but it looks like they're going to cover at least the same, general theme, era, and such. It might not be the Battle of Axanar that they're going to cover, but they're going to cover other stuff during that. So.
If you talk with any author, any well-published author out there, you'll find out that most of them will adamantly say something to the effect of, "I don't read any fanfic." Right? I try to avoid anything that reeks of fanfic. And it's partly for this reason, because they don't want to write a story and have it have some resemblance of any sort to a fanfic item where that person can go back and say, look, they stole this from me, blah, blah, blah. And that's really dangerous ground that Paramount's treading on if they're going to be running something that's overlapping so much with these guys.
I, yeah, and some people would be okay with that, and some people might not. But I mean, if someone took, say, Yoda's treasure and made it into a movie, I'd be like, yeah, just have my name on the screen, and I don't need anything, but I'm just glad to have the publicity and
Yeah.
acknowledgement that
Yeah,
this is where it came from. But
I think there's probably half the people that would agree with you, and probably half the people that wouldn't.
yeah, there's
I
gonna be the
totally
ones that
understand.
I came up with this idea. You stole it. I'm entitled.
Yeah, I'm a scientist. Like, my field is founded on sharing, at least in my generation of science, people are very open to sharing data, sharing results, sharing everything, and very socialist about it. So I totally agree with you. But that is compelling. When money is an issue, I think then it becomes a lot more difficult.
Yeah. Stupid money.
Yeah, there's no money in the Star Trek universe. Come on. Act like the Federation.
Yeah.
So
there is gold press platinum, though.
Yeah. So this series, I think I've heard, is going to have a female lead.
Yes.
Again.
And it's not going to be a captain.
And it's not a captain. So some people were like putting the idea out there that they were going to have the Below Decks sort of series where you're following scrubs, you're following red shirts.
I mean, they did do that in the one episode of Next Generation.
I hate that. Oh my god.
What was it? I think it was called Lower Decks.
Yeah.
I believe the episode.
Not fun. They should title the episode "Main Cast Wants a Vacation."
And I gotta say, it was a little interesting. And they made Riker look like a jerk in that one. But it was a little different, just to see it from a different perspective. And I think that's what they're kind of working at, is because we've had how many series now where it is all from the captain's perspective.
Yeah. I think a whole series that way is a good idea.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but I'm being optimistic.
Yeah. Well, that brings me back to the red shirts. So if this is a Below Deck show, then I think that's going to draw a lot of attention to red shirts, and all the more reason.
Well,
to read that.
I mean, yeah, and if these people that are on the show are like your, quote, red shirts, you could have a rotating cast in there that, just like, Torchwood, Game of Thrones, any current series where it's like, oh, you like this character? Oh, they are not going to be alive next week.
Well, that brings up another question, because this is on CBS's on-demand service.
Yeah.
Does that mean it's not going to be held to the same standards as network? Is there going to be swearing and sex and violence in this show, or are they going to keep it?
Yeah, that's been brought up in discussion, but of course they haven't said anything.
Right.
But yeah, it's a possibility.
It's not that I'm like the greatest proponent for sex and violence, but the
really? I never would have suspected, Wes.
The precedent has kind of been set, right? Network TV is not doing very well. Cable TV is where it's at right now, and it's because people want, or seem to want, something that's a lot more
realistic,
more real.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Star Trek can do that. Star Trek has never gone that way.
Yeah.
Star Wars is trying to do that.
Yeah, with Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that'll be interesting. And Star Trek is in their series. They've kind of touched on little things here and there, but not like blatant. Going out of their way to.
Tasha Yar and Data, man.
Yeah.
Still the weirdest thing ever in Next Generation.
Yeah. Well, how about we do the fan film of the month?
All right.
As long as we're talking about Star Trek. I saw this one posted on the Axnar page on Facebook, but it's not really a story-driven fan film. It's, what, maybe 5 minutes or so, but it is, 5 minutes, 22 seconds. A lot of it's all special effects. It's, a ship flying around, and, a lot of, nice, glory shots of the ship and such. It's called Chasing the Infinite Sky. And it's set in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek universe. You can tell by the ship design right away. And some of the effects that the ship has, like when it goes into warp and such, it's totally from the new Star Trek era.
The other thing I would point out, going back to the briefly to Discovery, is it's going to be in the Prime, in the TV universe.
Yes, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so Chasing the Infinite Sky.
Yep, Chasing the Infinite Sky. It came out, July 24th, so only a little over a month ago. But yeah, it was... and nice for the scenery. And basically that's, what the majority of it is, like I said, so... But for someone to go and make a fan film about the Abrams universe, I think it might be a first. But being able to do this and not violating any of Paramount's rules for fan films, or guidelines, I shouldn't say rules, they're guidelines. That's another thing too. So it's like, oh, we don't have to worry about being sued. Kind of. So yeah, I would suggest checking that out. And how about a Kenner Star Wars commercial?
From Kenner's Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back collection, it's Millennium Falcon that you put together. Batteries not included.
Nice landing, Han Solo. Uh-oh, come on, Chewbacca. Stormtroopers are coming.
Action figures each sold separately.
Got him on radar. I'll fire the laser cannon.
There's even a hidden storage hatch.
Ready for takeoff. Jump to light speed. We're gone. On to the Death Star.
Millennium Falcon from Kenner's Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back collection. Action figures each sold separately.
And we're back. Yeah, kind of going back on Star Trek fan films again. I don't know if you've gotten to see any of the Star Trek Continues episodes. Oh man,
No,
you need to go
because
and do that.
I know last time you told me, and part of the reason is I need to watch some of the original series first to get
Okay, I'll give you that.
to get footing on it, and we just haven't done that yet.
Okay.
It's on my radar.
So we won't shoot you this time.
I've been watching my Star Trek. I've been a good boy.
Well, when you finally do get to watching it, there's 6 episodes out there right now. There will be a 7th one coming. Actually, it premieres at, it was one of the cons, like on September 2nd, but online, it'll be out there the next day. So September 3rd, episode 7.
September 2nd's a better day. It's my birthday.
Okay. And yeah, I did see an article out there saying that as far as Star Trek Continues goes and the fan film guidelines from Paramount, basically they're saying, well, these are only guidelines, so we're just going to continue to make episodes like we have been.
Right.
So I'm like, good, go, because this is like the best thing out there right now. So yeah, people get out there and watch that stuff because it's great, especially if you're a fan of the original series. Well, kind of continuing on the vein of fan films. There's a lot of fan film talk in this one. Yeah, I know. I don't think we had mentioned it in the last podcast, but it came up in our discussion afterwards. And this goes a little bit to previously in this podcast, but talking about Galaxy Quest. I did a search out there for Galaxy Quest fan film, and there is nothing.
There are none.
There are none. I'm like, this is an opportunity for someone. Go out there and make a Galaxy Quest fan film.
Well,
I'm not going to do it myself.
Somebody else go do it.
Yeah, someone else go do it, but I'm putting the idea out there. It would be
been
awesome.
to Dragon Con twice, which has huge amount of cosplay. I've never been to Comic-Con, but I've seen a lot of the cosplay at Comic-Con, and I've not seen much Galaxy Quest cosplay at all. I mean, I'm sure the outfits are out there, the uniforms, and that's an easy cosplay. Just wear a uniform and be a random crewman number 5.
Yep.
And I'm sure somebody on Etsy or somewhere must be making head prosthetics for a man. Now I can't remember his name, and I just watched it like
Dr.
2 weeks
Lazarus.
ago. Dr. Lazarus, thank you. Yeah, I mean that stuff's got to be out there.
Yeah, you would think. However, I remember looking back. You know how Justin Long's character is building a Galaxy Quest model. I'm like, oh, that would be so awesome to have, but I don't think anyone's ever made a model of the ship.
Who made Galaxy Quest? What company?
That was a DreamWorks production.
DreamWorks. So I guess DreamWorks doesn't strike me necessarily as a merchandising sort of company.
No. I mean, you can't even get the soundtrack to the movie.
What was it? It's USS Protectorate, right?
The NES Protector.
NES.
Yeah.
NES.
Standing for, or no, not NES. NTE. The NTE Protector, because it stands for not the Enterprise. That's the official word, is why they use NTE.
Oh, it's NSEAA. It is, the number on it is NTE 3120, but it's NSEAA.
Oh, yeah. Yep, there we go. Okay. That was it. I knew the NTE was in there somewhere.
I bet you there's got to be some... actually, the top search suggestion is model, NSEA Protector model. There's got to be some 3D prints and stuff out there for it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there is a model.
Ooh.
$30 on Amazon. Only one left. God. Maybe I'll buy it.
Because, yeah, if someone had a 3D model to make a ship the same size as all my micro machines for the FASA game, oh my gosh, I would love that. It'd be like people threw out their Enterprise and their Klingon bird of prey, and then I threw out the Protector. Like, what's that? Galaxy Quest!
There's a model out there for the communicator and their little laser gun as well.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet. So there you go. That you need those for cosplay.
Yeah.
Galaxy Quest cosplay, Mariah.
Yeah, the thing that kind of gives me pause about the whole fan film idea is that when they were talking about doing a series, a Galaxy Quest series, and they were going to get like the original cast to come back.
Yeah, what's Tim Allen doing? I mean, come on.
Well, yeah, supposedly he's doing some other series right now.
Oh, yeah.
So he's kind of busy, and then we lost Alan Rickman. So I think it kind of put a nail in the coffin there, saying it probably isn't going to happen. But the studio that was going to do the series, Paramount. Paramount Television. So I'm like, yeah. So if they ever decide that they do want that option and make a series, maybe with different actors or whatever, then you're going to run into the same issue that Axonar has. And, look out, Paramount's going to sue. But it sounds like they're not going to act on it, so go, people. Go do it. I mean, even if they're not portraying the original cast. Maybe the Thermians made a second ship. and you have an all-new cast over there.
Well,
Kind of running into the same type of issues, that, you know, we're not supposed to be doing this really, but here's a ship from the Thermians, and this is what the galaxy is like, and let's go out there and check it out, kind of thing. It'd be so easy. Good writing though would be needed.
Yeah, that's a hard thing.
Because it's got to be a comedy, of course.
Yeah, and again, I argue the same thing I started to say incorrectly about Deadpool. When I was saying, like, making a second Deadpool, it's hard with the sort of lightning in a bottle thing. Galaxy Quest is kind of the same way. I feel like if you try to make another Galaxy Quest, it's tough to do the same thing again.
I think it was it the director or someone involved with the original the only Galaxy Quest out there had been quoted as saying that, yeah, I don't think we should do another one. I think the first one is all that we need, and having another one out there would lessen the first one. So, yeah, I can kind of see that. But if it's a fan film, not something official, I think that gives it a little more leeway.
Okay, so one last bit of fan film thing from me, at least. I'm a huge Futurama fan. I love Futurama. Have you watched the trailer for the Futurama fan film?
Yes, I did. That was almost going to be my fan film of the month deal, but this one came up. I'm like, oh, I got to go this way. But yeah, I saw that, and
it's nightmare fuel. Especially Leela.
Yeah. Yeah, that was something.
You'll have to put a link to that one. People have to see that, and don't watch it late at night before bed. It's horrifying.
Okay, link to Futurama.
I mean, it brings up a good point of, especially in that case where you're mimicking a cartoon, drawing the line between authenticity and, realism, where they're trying to make them too authentic to the cartoon. And some things, if you've ever seen the real life Homer Simpson, that people have done, it's a freak show. You don't want to see that.
So, I think that was in the same thing that they did the realistic version of Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh.
Yeah, and one of my favorite podcasts and website Tested did a realistic Lego minifig. One of the guys did for Comic-Con. So if you do a search for creepy fig on YouTube, you'll find it. And it's a minifig that looks like it has flesh, and a Lego minifig that looks like it's made out of flesh, and it's really, really awful. Cartoons do not translate to real life.
Speaking of figures, if there's any fans of Action Trection out there.
Action Trection. Are you still making Action Trection?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
They've been going weekly, except for 1 week. I don't know if anyone realized it or not, but I did skip a week in there. Because otherwise, they've been running continuously. Every Saturday morning, a new one is posted. But,
sorry to say I've not kept up.
Well, this, I think, was early June or mid-June. And I had saved a spot for one that I needed to take a picture of yet. And I never got around to doing the picture, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, nothing's posted. I wonder if it's working right. And I go and look at my post, and it's like, oh, whoops. So one of these weeks I'll have a double, to kind of make up for it. But, yeah, I need to work on that some more yet, because it's getting to the point where what I have out there posted and ready to actually be released is thinning down.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last one that I have scheduled to go is in October. However, I do have a bunch more pictures taken, so I just need to work on the editing for each web page and edit the pictures and post that stuff, and then I'll be good for like another year. But in the meantime, I've gotten other figures and other ideas, so it'll continue for a while.
Galaxy Quest coming in, crossover.
If there was Galaxy Quest figures, that would be nice. But because I had thought too, it's like there, it would be nice to add in more options. Like, should I use my Star Wars figures? I have used my DC figures. Batman, and oh geez, I don't think I have a Superman now that I think about it. But I think as far as the heroes on DC, I've got more villains than heroes. And heroes, I've got Batman, Flash, Aquaman, and Hawkman. Oh, and Robin. I do have Robin. That's right. Maybe I've got about half and half as far as good versus evil. But yeah, just trying to get into another genre of action figures. It's like, my God, they cost so much nowadays.
Right.
Because in my local comic book store, they've got a bunch of the figures there, and of course they're well done ones, and they want like $20 a figure, and it's like, I can't do it. I just can't do it.
I bet you could find a really like cruddy IP and just find buckets of figures on eBay.
Maybe.
I'll have to think about it. What sort of IP would they have made just a ton of figures for, but bombed massively? Find some Green Lantern figures there.
Green Lantern, Planet of the Apes.
Planet of the whatever 2000 Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. That's what you should do. I bet you there's a lot of figures for that. I'd have to rewatch all those movies so I could, put in jokes that people would understand.
For the original ones, the old Planet of the Apes.
Well, even those. I mean, the new Planet of the Apes movies, I've only watched maybe a couple of them.
Oh, the last one made me so mad. I think a lot of people really like it, but there's a scene in the movie where an ape is riding. What is he on a horse? I don't know. He has a machine gun in either hand, and like riding on top of a horse with a machine gun in each hand, and it's just the dumbest thing I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah.
As you might tell, like I get turned off by like single jumping the shark sort of things that just ruin it. There's a video for you to link. Everybody there who's heard the term jumping the shark needs to watch the video from Happy Days of Fonzie jumping the shark, because
that's where it originated.
You got to know where it came from.
Yeah. Kevin Smith has referenced it in his podcast too, where he's like, this is where this originated, jumping the shark, and he talks about the Happy Days episode.
Yeah,
I'm just like, I totally remember that happening when it was originally on.
Yeah,
I was like,
a lot of people
what?
have used that term for decades, right? And
Okay,
not known what it's from.
Yeah, he's water skiing in shorts and his leather jacket, and going off this ramp in the lake, and it's like, yeah,
Shark
that
Lake.
is jumping the shark. That's when your show has gotten kind of a, I don't even know how you'd describe it.
I would say it's when you've set up such a ridiculous barrier for your characters to surmount that you make it everything else in the show a joke in relation to that.
There you go.
Or you just do something so over the top. I think that's kind of what it's used for now. It's just
Yeah, more
going
over the top.
too far over the top. That reminds me, there's a show I have not been watching, and now I'm forgetting the name of it. There's a hacker show going on right now, not Scorpion, that's actually quite good. Oh, Mr. Robot, that's what it is.
Oh.
That a lot of people have liked, but apparently they did a bit of shark jumping this season that has angered a lot of people.
Yeah, I've heard that one is really good, but I haven't watched any of it.
Yeah, same.
So.
I'll say one last thing because we're kind of going on long, but my preachy outcry to everybody, and it's probably redundant now because you've heard it a couple other places, I'm sure. Stranger Things. Watch Stranger Things on Netflix, especially if you grew up in the 80s. Any part of 80s, if any part of the 80s built you, then you need to watch Stranger Things.
Okay, I gotta put that on my list. Red Shirt's book, Stranger Things.
Yeah, my wife and I watched through Stranger Things in 2 sittings. It's 10 episodes. We watched 2 binges of 5 episodes each. Winona Ryder is amazing in it, but even more importantly, the kids who are basically the main stars of the show, much like E.T., the kids are the star of the show, and they're all fantastic.
Are they like hour episodes?
I think they're hour-ish episodes, and because it's Netflix, it's just built for binging.
Okay.
But everybody says basically the same thing. It's if it and E.T. had a baby.
Okay.
Spielberg meets Stephen King. It's really, really good. It's maybe a little too much of a nostalgia trip, but I'm okay with that.
All right.
And I could just live with the theme song playing in the background of my entire life.
All right. We'll have to check that out. All right. On that note, I think we've gone about an hour and a half.
Yep.
This will be one of our longest ones, but we had a lot to cover.
Yes.
A lot to say about those things. But we'll see when the next one is. I'm guessing it'll probably be around the end of next month. So.
Yeah, I don't know if there's too much. We'll see what's coming out in the meantime. You never know.
Yeah, next one could be a 15-minute episode. However, I doubt it. But
a lot of new TV shows. The fall shows should be starting up soon, so we'll see what comes.
Yeah, a lot of them start in October though. So.
Yeah, I know. Times change. I'm old.
Yeah.
Things used to come out
in
September.
And they used to run all the way like straight through, and it'd be like September to
June.
Well, not quite June. maybe May. But there weren't breaks in between of for the next 3 weeks we're going to show reruns.
We're looking at you, Walking Dead.
Well, yeah. They do that now. I mean, just about all the shows do that now. Yeah. Which is really annoying. But
that lets you catch up on old stuff.
Yeah.
And Netflix. Netflix is always there for you.
Yep. All right.
Well, it's great to be here again.
Yes. Great to have you here. And that is Flamecast for this month. So, I'm Todd Platts.
I was Wes Swingley.
Yeah, who are you now? All right. And that is a wrap.